All right, folks, we'll call the meeting to order at 6:31. We'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Recording in progress.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, public, for coming. We'll start off with, are there any changes to the agenda?
I would move that item number 8 be tabled for the next council meeting.
Is there a second on that?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Judy. So we have a second, first and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. So Don, you'll bring that back? We just had we missed a step in the process, so we're gonna correct that. Public comment. Comments are on anything that's not already on the agenda. We welcome folks to comment, either online or in person. Mr. Cameron, you're good?
Thank you.
Okay. All right, no public comment. We'll move on to update on public input and possible action regarding the city flag. Chip, you've been doing some work, I think, along with Eric, possibly. So let's have that discussion. Everyone had a piece in your packet about what's been done to date, what the response to survey is.
There's a flag design that's been prepared by James Croft, who's in the audience. He's a practicing vexillologist, which is a flag expert. It's a proposal we've been looking at for a while. At last month's meeting, things kind of came to a head, and it was resolved by the council to seek some public input on the flag proposal. We did get some, most of the questions were devised by Councilmember Johnson, and then we made them available on paper at the expo and also online. And once we released it online, we got a pretty vigorous response. My memo summarizes most of the data we received around, if I'm not mistaken, is it 295 responses or something like that? Generally, there is agreement among both the paper and online survey respondents that the City of St. Albans should have an official flag. There's a lukewarm reception to this current proposal. There are a lot of ideas for what should be on the flag. Most of them of images you'd recognize: the maple leaf, the fountain, the railway, and there are various comments on this flag proposal, what people like about it, what people don't like about it, what they think is missing. But I do want to, qualify this data by saying, first of all, the only public process is to send out this survey. There's been no, Mr. Croft has discussed with the council the principles of good flag design and where he was coming from, but there was never the chance to tell the public about, when you're doing a flag, this is kind of what you want to see, regardless of all the great ideas that are going to be out there. So I'd say it's a useful set of data, but if we were to have a real public process concerning an official city flag that starts with a charge from the city council, what a flag should look like, I think that you'd find there would probably be a warmer reception to what was proposed or a similarly designed flag. And from the get-go, this was an idea that came to the city council. It's not something that's really been forcefully put toward us. But staff recommendations right now, if the council were to make a decision, I would recommend that you might consider tabling the idea of having an official city flag until such time that the council agrees it should be a priority for us. Or two, you should consider this proposed city flag, or maybe something with some minute adjustments made at your behest, tweaks to its current design and color scheme. But I do think it might be time for an up or down on this flag, or the idea of having an official city flag.
Thank you, Chip. Thank you for your work on this, both Eric and Chip, compiling the information. I'll jump in. I'm one who is in favor of a flag. It may not be a priority, to your point, and we can continue to work on that. It seems like the respondents favor a flag. Personally, I think the flag adds to our brand. It sets us apart from other communities. I think it would be a nice touch when we do press conferences like we did down in Fonda last week. I think it'd be a nice addition. But at the same time, I know we have a lot going on, but I don't want to, personally, I wouldn't want to lose track of where we are on that, so. Yeah, Eric, go ahead.
First, I'll say my only input for working on this so far, all the work that I'm doing, nice job, Chip. I was just putting questions together, but from a marketing perspective, I agree with you, that anything we can put our brand to that reinforce that brand will help build community. It's like when you see that logo in different communications, you recognize that as that's the city, that's the information coming to me. And the city, I think the flag just reunites that. So if you're at an event, downtown's at an event or whatever, and that flag goes up, oh, this is a city-sponsored event, or this is a downtown-sponsored event, but it ties it back in. And that also kind of helps draw towards that question of what does the downtown do? And we get that with other communities as well. But I think that's my pieces. I think I'm in support of a flag. Whether or not it's this one, I like the design. I agree that there's some things I think that we might be able to tweak, but for me, it's the color and the leaf are definitely two key moments for me. But.
Thanks, Eric.
I mean,
Chad?
I think that if you're gonna put a survey out, like, everybody's gonna find fault with something, right? So, like, I mean, you go on Facebook, you saw the survey on Facebook, the conversation isn't great.
You're more likely to hear from the people who don't like
100%. So, I don't know. I think if we're gonna put it to the public, I mean, is there any validity in just saying, like, here are 3 options, you pick your favorite, and then that's what you go with, you know what I mean? It's less of a way to be a negative. You pick A, B, or C, what do you like the best, and then you go with whatever the one gets the most votes, instead of, I don't know, trying to ask everybody what they don't like about it.
I like that idea, Chad, and I think that if we did that, even if it's 2, we also should quantify that by saying, like, these are the elements of good flag design.
100%.
Boom, boom, boom. These are a couple options. I think, the ladies in the park, that a lot of people talked about that, and the railroad. We are the rail city. I think I also like the idea of a flag. I'm not sure if it is a priority. I guess I would ask, like, how much time and energy is it taking for our staff right now in a time when we've got a lot of balls in the air?
Yeah, no.
The staff, I think, perspective on this is if we're going to have a flag, an essential element needs to be the maple leaf. We went through a logo design 10 years ago, and we had 5 logos. We had, we had the ladies, and we had a train coming out of a maple leaf. We cannot get away from this.
We have a lot invested in this branding scheme. It's all over the city.
Can we add to it, though, to incorporate some of the other things that people feel like the city is known for, without getting too much?
I mean, not to the logo.
Like train tracks around the logo. I don't know. I'm not a flag designer.
Like, what's Nike known for? It's the swoosh. You would never see Nike have something other than the swoosh, right?
Yeah.
On their flag.
Yeah.
it's kind of the brand, and I like the leaf, because it does tie in with what we have, our banners and so forth, so I do like the leaf. I mean, maybe we could do something different with the finial, maybe put a locomotive up there or something, I don't know, I mean, I'm just tossing that out there, but yeah, I'm not opposed to the flag at all, and I don't know what people found that was, I mean, it looks like quite a few people didn't care for it, but I think Chad's idea is a good one, in that, you know, we just put a couple things out there for them to pick, and make sure that the leaf is incorporated in it somehow or somewhere.
And if the leaf, like, maybe people don't know that the leaf is our brand, like, years ago you did that, so that is why it's.
Yeah.
So to give a little bit more context, when we're asking people, you know, maybe it's similar, but maybe it's like not the triangle, maybe it's another, I don't know, but, you know, not so nautical looking, but maybe still the leaf, but different colors, I don't know. I think if we give people the choice of a couple, but is it taking a ton of time from, I mean, Chip, you don't want to ask.
Yeah, it is, you know, like,
This wasn't on our goal list.
you know, we can do anything the council wants, but we can't do everything the council wants, right? So, I tend to agree with the mayor. I think there's value in having a flag as a symbol of civic pride. We've got a lot of input from a flag expert on if we're gonna have a flag, what it ought to look like. We don't make decisions typically by allowing the voters to decide. You know, this is the board that decides. And, you know, it's one thing to get some input like we just have done, but I caution you about going back out and saying, now pick one. That's what takes a lot of time, you know, is going back and saying, all right, let's get 3 options that all have a flag and reflect good flag design. I believe reflect good flag design. It's going to look a lot like this. I'm not, you know.
I personally don't see anything wrong with this design. I like it. I mean, I think it looks fine. And that's just my opinion, but I don't know what people are looking for. I don't know why that, you know, why so many people didn't care for it, but I kind of like it.
And actually, the first thing you said, the nautical design, that was where my mind went first, because of the arrow. You know, I agree. I mean, I wonder, there's been a couple designs kind of submitted through the chats and the comments and all that stuff. Is there any way we could just take 3 of the best ones of those, as 3 of us agree on, and just put those out and show which you guys like most?
Or
Get
we
us
just
feedback.
decide.
Or we just decide, yeah.
I mean, if you go to what the public wants, there's a good chance you're gonna break away from the brand.
True.
Not if you put the brand on every flag that you put out there.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking more like the leaves on all of them, but are we doing solid color, are we doing an arrow, are we doing like, you know, train tracks around it, that kind of thing. Like give 3 options now, we could keep the leaf. Bearing in mind the distance that they would have to have around our logo that we set early on in the brand name, I've never seen that.
Question, or a suggestion, okay? I don't have no problem with the flag, but you could put, it would represent the railroad if you wanted to. In 1950, when the railroad was 100 years old, they had a locomotive 601, and it was called the City of St. Albans. So just in this area, if you wanted to, it's up to you. Suggestion.
Once again, I think, you were here 10 years ago, right?
I think so.
So I don't know what the process was, Chip, Dom, you were, but I think if you start incorporating the railroad, and I'm gonna be negative Nelly, I think you're opening up that door to get away from what the branding is.
Yeah.
I think it's the leaf, or it's, I'm not the one calling the shots, but it's either the leaf or it isn't.
I like it.
If you want to maintain the branding, and I agree with Chip and Dom, you're gonna, if you get away from that, you're sort of, you're starting to deteriorate what the brand is.
Then it becomes unrecognizable.
Yeah, okay.
I
Yeah,
think
that's
the
true.
challenge for me is clearly more people didn't care for this design than did. And if we end up just saying, well, this is what we're doing, then why would we have asked them in the first place?
But we might have heard more from the people who didn't like it than the people who do
Okay.
at the same time.
It's just like, so the optics of it might look.
There's no way to test our survey respondents against the broader community. It's a quick toe dip into public opinion, but.
I voted 40 times.
Okay, so I'm vote for because there's not a lot, that many votes.
I don't think people like the triangle,
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
just to name it.
I think it just looks like another country's flag that we don't want here. And I'm worried about that leaf being in the middle to make it look like our people from the north, our neighbors from the north. And I don't think, I'm really not, I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence about a flag, so to speak. But this is
I have to watch out for
not a priority for me. We have other things that we need to be dealing with. But I will say this, this is the city of St. Albans. And if we don't involve the public, I don't feel like shoving something down their throat. So I disagree with Dominic saying that we shouldn't put it out there to the public. Whether or not there was a lot of people that voted against it, there were people that voted against it. And this table doesn't look good to me. So I think we need to do some more things. We need to take a look. We have a flag, fine, for all the things that you said, Tim, but the public needs to be involved. And I think there's a couple design aspects we need to get away from on this flag. That's just my opinion.
So what I'm hearing is, staff has got your hands full, and I don't argue that one bit. Does it make sense for us to do a subcommittee and do it ourselves? I don't, and with staff input,
I'd be one so up in
Is
design
that-
aspect.
sort of.
if you're not in a hurry and you give us some time, like when we're able to come up with 3 good options and we think they're ready, we can bring them to you and then you can decide what you want to bring to the public.
Are you comfortable with that, or would you be fine with 3? I mean, the 3 individuals may come up with something that maybe staff says, no, it's not gonna work, go back to the drawing board.
That's one. My idea was more like we take some of the input we've gotten and some of the input from this conversation, and we first try to form a response of options rather than go out to the public for designs. I think that you might need to balance between the city council deciding what are the bounds of the conversation going to be, but you can still go to the public for the conversation. You can come up with what you think the 3 options should be, and then get response to those.
Yeah, I don't think it should be willy-nilly. You'll just have a hodgepodge of
I think we all know
things.
one thing, the leaf's in. We
Yeah.
all have said that around the table.
People thought that on the survey too. That was the favorite part. Or, well, 35% of the respondents was the leaf. So,
And like has been said here, the public needs a little bit more context.
I just want to reinforce Chad's point that, make it positive, which one do you like?
Right.
And not, why don't you like these, or whatever the case might be.
Mr. Mayor, can I give you a motion to consider?
Sure.
Direct your planning department, when they, within the resources they can find, to prepare 3 additional options that are built around the flag. But this is what the plan department does, and up to this point, it hasn't been very led by the plan department.
Fine by me. Let's, before we go that far, Jim, you have anything you'd like to share?
Sure. First of all, I want to say that I'm pleased that you're working on it. I certainly didn't know it's going to be this controversial, to be honest with you. I would want to withdraw my design. I've talked to Chet. If the respondents or the citizenry does not agree with it, I would not want the council to approve it because I don't feel comfortable about citizens not getting something they want. So that's my point. I'm not feeling offended or anything. And as I said, way back, Don, when I saw him years ago, he said, that's our brand, the leaf. That should be on the flag. I just want to mention one thing. How many of these did you give out yesterday? 5,000?
Yeah, lots. Yeah, sure. 5,000 definitely.
Dark green, your city color, white logo.
Right.
5,000, the people were wearing these, okay? So there's your leaf, there's your brand, there's your color. I just want to say, I didn't pick, like when people look at that survey, it may have been a bit better to have a little bit of description in it, that we're the Maple City, we have the Maple Festival, we've had, this is our logo,
Yeah.
and this is our brand. That's why when people look at it and say, I don't like the leaf, well, I didn't design the leaf, this is your leaf. I don't like the dark green, well, that's the green, that's your color. So that's why I combined it with that. Now, if you didn't like the point, I can understand that could be designed some other way. If you do the 3 designs, I would recommend that people rate them 1, 2, 3. Not, this one's good, this one's, this one's good, that's all I said. Rate 1, 2, 3. That way you'll get a good basis for the survey. And all I want to say is, as I said 7 months ago, I love flags. I have an affection for St. Albans. As I said, I've worked here, I have friends here. I'd just like to see the town have a nice flag. And I want to make one other final point, and I agree with Mr. Hawkins that this probably is not the most priority thing. There's tons of things, drugs, crime, sewer. That stuff's going to be here 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. And I also want to say, if the city of Denver, Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, large communities, cities, can adopt city flags, and they found the time for it, I think little St. Albans can too. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. One of the last points I would make is, no matter what we do, not everyone's going to be happy.
Right. No way.
It will not be unanimous, I can pretty much guarantee that.
I do like his suggestion of proportional representation vote, because that kind of gives you an idea if people's first choice fails because they're too skewed. We go every second choice and the ones still remain. And that kind of gives you what you would want.
I said.
All right, so the city manager has proposed a potential motion.
Why can't we just use this as update on public input? We just won't take any action. I don't think we have to vote on it, we just move ahead with our own staff in the manner the city manager prescribed. I don't think we need to have a vote on it.
I am fine with that. Everyone else fine with that?
That's fine.
Good, all right,
Yeah. Seems like the council's indicating consensus.
yes.
That was Chip's third option in his memo, and I said, don't put that on there, they're gonna tell you to do it.
He does as well.
All right, so we're moving past that. James, thank you for coming in, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for your interest in this. When's your birthday, Jim?
February 17th.
Okay, we'll try to have it in place by then. Yeah, 1 year, yeah. Hey, don't push it, we're just going February 17th.
We'll put it on a cake
Next the clip.
next to Cliff.
I gotta say one thing further. I work, I'm in a vexillological association, and a lot of them design flags, and they always say this, it's 10% design, 90% politics.
Yep.
So there you go.
There we go.
Okay, thanks guys.
Thank you, Jim. Have a good one. Okay, moving on to considering state revolving loan fund application for the
But
combined.
this one there, but number four.
Citizen.
Oh, yeah, CSO funding project,
Oh.
okay.
there was an announcement about some funding the city received for CSO projects, and it's 3.1 million for CSO, and we also received $500,000 for stormwater. It's really formula funding, ARPA money that the state's administering, so
No?
we didn't, it's something that we knew was coming our way, but we thought this might be a good chance to just update folks on what this funding was about, but also some of the things that are ahead for the CSO and stormwater. Starting with the CSO, just a quick background on this is that of the city's entire sewer system, there's a small portion that also takes in stormwater from catch basins and other means. And it's a small portion of the city sewer system, but it has enough impervious cover in it that when there's a real storm, a lot of that runoff gets into the sewer system and overloads the conveyance system, overloads the mains and the trunk line that gets to the plant. In a big storm, the water never gets to the plant. It backs up in the trunk line. And rather than go to the plant, it decides to come out at the lowest point of that part of the system, which is the intersection of Laurel Weldon and South Elm. There's a manhole, and that is our combined sewer overflow. That's where it overflows. We have it engineered so that it doesn't all come up in that intersection. There's an actual overflow structure that goes to Stevens Brook. We have one combined sewer overflow. Other communities with historic sewer systems have multiple combined sewer overflow points. But it doesn't matter. We need to get rid of it. The state has us under an order to someday eliminate the overflows. There are a couple ways you can do that. One is to separate those areas where the stormwater is combined with the sewer. The other is to just provide storage for that extra runoff to go to during a storm event, and then just pump it out later on after things have calmed down.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
So, the state's not so concerned about the combined sewer and wastewater runoff, right? It's more the overflow.
Because the overflow has some sewer in it,
Right.
it's mostly stormwater, but because it has some sewer in it, it's considered a discharge, unallowed discharge of sewer.
But if we didn't have an overflow, combined wastewater and sewer would still be permissible if it made it to the wastewater plant.
Yeah, if all that water makes it into the wastewater plant, if the water plant gets a little too much water during a storm, which is related to the stormwater and the combined part of the system, then we are permitted to have that water go into a bypass scenario.
Right, but I guess my
Yeah.
question, Chip, is we're not being mandated to separate our wastewater and our stormwater.
We're mandated to make sure the overflows don't happen,
Okay.
which is why storage might be the better option. We've got two projects coming that are a good example of this. Stebbins Street, this year we hope to detach some of the stormwater from the sewer on Stebbins Street, mostly the roof drains from the federal building. That's a separation project. That stormwater will now no longer get into the sewer during a storm event, but that's a small project. We'll be able to cover all of that with this funding we received. The other one is a storage project underground, 500,000 gallons to start, underneath Houghton Park, because that's right next to where the overflow is. So the water will go into that underground storage before it gets to the brook. And if you take 500,000 gallons, if you look at all the times that we've overflowed, which we have to monitor and report to the state, and how many of those overflows were under 500,000 gallons, if we just provided storage for that 500,000 gallons, we would cut the overflows by more than half. Just like that, just with one project. A big project, but this funding that we've received is going to go a long way toward making that project a reality. We'll put 500 gallons of storage underneath Houghton Park. We'll put the grass right back on top of it, and there might be an extra manhole, but otherwise you won't even know that it's there. And it'll have a system that we'll have to monitor, that after a storm event, we will then pump it out slowly into the sewer system where it's supposed to go.
Has that started to be designed yet?
Yeah, right.
At some point, can we get a visual of that, what that's gonna look like?
Yep,
How long the project takes and all that?
we can do that. And try and time it with the Steelers' practice schedule. Yeah, we can do our best.
Or the whole park improvements, right?
Right.
I mean,
Houghton Park improvement's gonna be done before that. That's gonna be done this summer.
So are we throwing good money after bad? Is there-
No, we are not, the storage project is not planning to disturb like the tennis courts, the basketball courts, or anything that we are gonna do as part of the Houghton Park improvement project.
Okay.
So I mean, this will be a big deal. We've been talking about the overflows for a long time. I think the public will appreciate that we're trying to address it and will be willing to support it. And the storage project will be like the biggest thing we've ever done toward the CSO. But this ARPA money does mean that if we do have to ask the voters for support, it's going to be less that we're going to have to ask them for. And we'll have those answers later on this year, and we'll share the final designs with the council as well. As for the stormwater, for all of our separated stormwater, we're under our MS4 permit to reduce the amount of that stormwater that goes to the brooks during a storm. And this is nothing to do with sewage, this is just stormwater now. And also to remove more of the phosphorus from our stormwater. And the $500,000 will go a long way toward our first stormwater treatment project, which we have planned for Lemna Drive in the land that the city owns next to the street. It'll be a gravel wetland that will treat a lot of the impervious in that area, and will be our first step on the way toward doing some of the stormwater treatment retrofits that we're on the hook to do. And then we also have the stormwater utility to support the any part of that project that's not covered by the ARPA funding.
Chip, you talked about the Lemnot Drive, the wooded area.
Mm-hmm.
Where is that? I was trying to picture what it.
It's the wooded area directly across from CVOEO and the food shelf.
So adjacent to the railroad tracks.
Yeah, we own that land.
Most of the grass area.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
I was thinking that was more railroad land than it was city land.
the city declared that as part of the public highway when it built that section of Lemna Drive.
Okay. Anyone have any questions are you set?
I'm good for the update on the funding.
Anyone have any questions?
I'll make a comment. Marty were here, he'd remember, and Chad, where we would hear from people about stormwater, and we're worried about what it would cost us and what kind of mess we're gonna get in. And to have this type of project present itself to us, it was like, some kind of dream, some kind of gift. So I'm very happy we're doing this. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we would never have thought we'd get something like this. So I'm really excited about it.
I'd like to point out that Chad Spooner worked on that for 15 years. Chad Boudreaux comes on and is done in 2 months. So you can go to your constituents, Chad, and tell them that.
Don't say that, they'll never vote me back in. Anyway.
Okay, anything else on that, Chip, do you need from us? No? Just
Not
the
on
update?
item 4, just a quick thing for item 5.
Okay, so we're moving on to item number 5.
This is actually some planning money for the underground storage project. It's 50% forgivable. It's technically one of the SRF loans, but it's 50% forgivable, and the other part will just be covered by the new funding that we've received. It's an application that does need council signatures.
Make a motion to approve the state revolving fund application for the CSO storage project.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments? What's the term on that, the length?
I don't know. I mean, it's going to be done in the next year or so. The loan terms.
That's right, you can. I didn't see it, but no problem. You can-
Is this just the application to get the funding?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry about it. All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Hearing no comments, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Chip.
Thanks. There are only 5 spots for signatures, so if folks can just try and fit them in.
Is it right here? Is it over 5 years?
Thank you.
All right, so you have a form coming around to sign, if you could sign that. Chip, thanks for your time. Let's see, Don, we're moving on to council goals and objectives. You all have a copy of that. Chad and Eric, you were not part of that discussion, but you can take a look at that. And if you have any input, let us know. But this is something we do on a yearly basis, or we try to sit down yearly and have a discussion about what our priorities are within your ward and throughout the city. This gives a good overview, broken down by general topics such as recreation, public safety, etc. So, Don, do you want to jump in?
That's pretty much the nut of it. Each policy area has a broad goal and then 4 or 5 more specific objectives that grew out of the council goal setting session, which we held towards the end of 23, as I recall. And then I had some input at the staff level from things that we knew that were coming up that were sort of operational matters that needed to be dealt with. So we can go through it. Policy area by policy area, we can put the document forward as a slate and open it up for discussion or open amendment. Depends on how deep dive you feel like.
Thank you, sir.
It's not scheduled for action, it's scheduled for first draft.
And just to touch on that, so as the year progresses, periodically you'll share this with us with
Sign and.
some notations relative to completion or working on whatever the case might be. Good. For those, oh, Trudy, you were there for this, right?
Oh, yeah.
So if there's something that we see might be missing, feel free to speak up.
So can we put it on the slate for next meeting as a go or no go, depending on what recommendations that we have between now and then?
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Some things are already in progress.
Yeah.
And like have like dates to be completed by.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That gives Chad and Eric a chance to take a look and talk to their constituents and see if they want to add something to it. I'm good with it, it's
Yeah. Thank you. It's a lot.
I didn't put the flag in there, we'll have to get that in there.
I think one of the pieces that I don't know where it would fit really, it might be next year we need to look at that objective, is look at the public relations communications component. I think during my campaigning was one of the big pieces was people understanding what the city was doing, what was happening, receiving notices when things were changing. I think that was the big, communications is a big repeated item that people come up with. And like I said, I don't think it fits in any of these categories right now, but I think it's something that we want to goal set at some point. I don't know if it's not really public safety, but it can be almost in every category as communications do. So.
And I think that the notice that Tim, you send out in the water bill is really helpful as an overview, but if you are renting and you get your own water bill, or do you not?
If you're
get
paying water, if you're not, then.
No.
But if it's included in your rent, so
Property owner, yeah.
that's a group of people that we're missing if they're not getting that water bill, so.
And I will say a lot of the people that told me they wanted to see improved communications weren't all renters, most of those were homeowners. So the letter is great, but it's just how they're being told about closures or brown water, like these little things that happen in between those letters. So I think that's just something.
I see everything on Facebook.
So to that point, Chip, how much do we use Facebook for that type of stuff?
I think a lot.
Typically, whenever there is a water break and we're aware that there might be an issue, things start going out on Facebook during the event.
I will say the last couple of breaks have been more on top of it, which has been great.
Yeah.
I think previously it weren't as common. There's a lot of like couple hours people saying, well, why is my water brown? And people speculating, and finally someone's like, oh, it's broken down the road for me.
Right.
But lately it's been a lot more on top of that, which is great. And I think the website redesign's gonna help with that as well, because we're looking at some components that include like notices on the site right at the top and stuff, so that will put things front of face. So.
I think sometimes though, some of the onus falls on us and some of the onus falls on people who are looking to get information. So I think that we need to find the balance there.
Eric, is your impression that they don't like Facebook because that requires them to be active and go look for it? They want something that they can sign up for, like a blast?
I think it's a little bit of that, but I think it's also the number of people on Facebook, but I think there's so much false information that goes out so quickly, and I've dealt with this as communities of schools, that getting useful information out when it happens as quickly as possible, or if a project's going to happen, getting ahead of the bulldozers plowing down trees, saying, oh, what the heck's happening out there, and people start speculating. I think those are the key components, keeping people updated. Now, that doesn't mean one platform. Facebook's not where everybody's going to be. A lot of the Facebook users are 35, 45 now. The younger crowds aren't on there. So it's like, how do you reach the younger crowds besides the homeowners that are getting the letters, hopefully? And I don't know what that looks like besides maybe the website updates, maybe monthly communications in some manner that they can reach them better. I don't know what that is, but.
Do we have anything like Vermont Roads will update me on my cell phone when I'm commuting and there's a closure?
That's true.
Is that anything that cities ever had? I'm sure there's a big cost to it, but
So,
an alert now kind of thing that schools may have.
yeah, Kristen signed up for a training on Vermont Alert, which is one of Chad's last acts, to try to get us more hooked into that.
That could help.
You know, we could add a bullet to reflect enhancing our communications capacity, not capacity, enhancing our communications
Methods.
services and products. It's a little, you know, and we can do more. It's a little bit of a tough nut to crack to figure out what we want that to look like. That's how I was asking the question, you know, and the city's pretty lean compared to other comparably sized, you know, like in Burlington, you know, Moreau sends this thing out, you know, they communicate all the time about stuff, right? He's got a full-time person doing it, you know, and part of the issue we're dealing with here is scalability, right? People are used to that level of contact and notification. And so, you know, again, I go back to, you know, we can do more. It's just a question of how do we right-size that.
And I think there are tools that exist now that can help lean that out a little bit. Like there are platforms that will release 2 multiple platforms at once, so we'll be reaching them different places. I know that there's some municipalities that have added, I think it's called Alert Me, but it's on their website where people can actually subscribe to get text messages, they get emails, they can get RSS feeds, and that's all on them to subscribe. And then anything gets posted to the site, they get notifications based on what they've chosen. Like City Council, you can follow City Council and see when they're meeting. And I think our site might have that feature, I'm not 100%, but the new site, I'm not 100% on that. I think Sarah's gonna look into that, but that's an easy tool. That's like now we're posting, we're not having to have constant this platform, that point.
Might save time in the long run.
That's one thing.
But no matter what we do, it's not gonna be 100%,
No.
right? I mean, that's,
It'll never be.
I mean, you've got a good chunk of the population that are seniors. And those are the ones that actually thank me for doing the letters, because they are not on computers. They're not, the letter has been their way of finding out what's going on. And not that I would stop doing it, but just, I want to make sure we're all on the same page that we're never going to hit everyone. And there's going to be, staff is still going to get complaints, whether, whether it's dirty water or whatever the case might be.
I mean, when the dirty water happened, back before Facebook, when just like 1,000 people call City Hall at once and complain, whereas I feel like, at least now, you know, I found out within 9 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, I found the post on social media in like 9 seconds about the water.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't have to call. Like it's gotta. At the end of the day, you gotta be looking for the information.
Right.
I agree with you, Tim. You could stand in front of the door, knock on the door, and talk to them, they'll still say anything about it. There's gonna be a percentage, and no marketing person's ever gonna say reach everybody. No way. I think it's, like Chad pointed out, that like, the phone calls are all coming in, and we added a tool, so maybe there's tools that make it even leaner, so there's less having to be done. You post in one spot, and now all these notification platforms got it. You're not having to fight it.
What's that one spot? I thought that.
Well, like Loom is for all the social platforms. So websites now will have it. Like you can actually post a feed on your websites. 90% of CRMs, content relation management systems, will auto post to your social medias. So then Kristen's posting a post, hit send, now it's everywhere. She doesn't have to do anything else. So I think there are opportunities, but I'm only asking that we put one bullet point in and begin looking at the overall processes and stuff and how we're doing it, and where we could find potential growth without hitting, impacting our staff time and stuff. If anything, hopefully saving staff time.
Okay, let's move on. So, the goals and objectives are just for information purposes. Chad and Eric will take another second look at it. We will bring them back at the next meeting and add, delete, approve, whatever the case may be, so. Let's move on to item number 7, which is the redevelopment of the Ralston building, I should say. Dom, what's in your ballpark?
This one item requests authorization for the city to form a limited liability corporation with a lender. The engine that drives a lot of the historic renovation projects in the city and elsewhere is the state and federal historic tax credit. It's worth 30% of the qualified expenses. So, you know, on a project like we think the Ralston building is going to be, you know, it's likely to be $12.5 million. So a little bit less than that, $390, depending on what the expenses get to. And so we toured the courthouse building earlier this afternoon, which I think provides a vision of what the project is going to look like, the look and feel of it. And the next step in this is for us to get the LLC set up. So we look for a motion to that effect.
Any questions for Dom?
I'll make a motion to consider authorization to create an LLC.
A second on motion.
Motion second. Any other comments?
So why can't the city get the same benefit of the LLC?
Because we don't pay taxes.
So it has to be a tax-paying entity.
Yeah.
Sure, it's not the
And so what people will do is, you know, they'll take that discount, they'll buy the credits essentially and roll that into the loan.
Is there a precedent in any other community for this?
We're
Is
doing it.
anyone else doing it?
We're doing it. We being FCIDC is doing it in Enosburg. We're in that process of forming the LLC now with the Enosburg Falls Economic Development Corporation. And then, so it's a 5-year process. Jim knows more about it than I do, but
Okay.
yeah, so we're doing it in Enosburg.
But is there another
Jim.
municipality doing this?
Oh, specifically municipalities.
I don't think so, because most municipalities don't do economic development like we do.
Okay. So I'm just wondering, do we have authority to do that?
Yeah. I mean, from a Dillon's rule perspective, yeah. I mean, it's within, it's implicit authority within the general supervisory authority of the town. Right? So that's what the legal opinion on the back begins to speak to.
Okay.
These are the guys that, you know, do this day in and day out.
Okay.
So this is a formality in order to access
Funds, right?
some funds
Yeah.
because it's a historic building.
You know, if you're building in most of Vermont, nobody can make any money building a building on spec, right? You know, like the buildings across the street. can't build that thing and then turn around and sell it the next day, because it costs too much to build, right? So that's true whether it's new construction or redevelopment. From a policy level, the state of Vermont and the federal government want to encourage renovation of historic structures. And so they've offered, the feds give you 20, the state gives you 10. You have to be located in a designated center like we are in order to use the tool. So we could not do it, but then we're going to have a project that we're $2 million into it, and it's only going to appraise for $1.3 million. Right, so this helps us close that gap.
And is there a time limit on this LLC, or once you?
The time limit, I believe, on the LLC gets wound down after a certain time period when the tax credits come in. And ultimately, what we anticipate doing here is we go through, we renovate the apartments, and then we offer the building for sale to somebody who wants to operate a business on the first floor and have the rental income from the upper stories, sort of like Travel Cup does next door, right? Literally vertically integrated. Right?
Yeah.
And then probably that entity comes in and takes our spot in the LLC.
LLC is 5 years.
5 years. Okay.
Well, I mean, unless we sell it ahead of time.
Yeah.
And the projection's not a loss for the city.
Well, it depends. These tax credits help narrow the gap. Additional subsidy could help narrow it further.
Additional subsidy meaning what? Certain applicants that are qualified to rent those types of buildings.
Yeah, so that's the next discussion, right? I'm not ready for that discussion yet.
Okay.
So I'm not,
Because I don't know about anyone else, but we're getting a lot of heat on this. I know you are, Marie, too. So, okay. I just don't want to go down that road.
But to your question, so Vermont Housing and Finance, they've got 0 to 2% money
Yeah.
that the city could apply for.
There's cheap, there's cheap money out there. We get pretty darn cheap money as it is. So there's a VHIP program, which I was diving into a little bit earlier today. They can provide some incentives for $30,000 per unit, and seems to allow you to rent at market rate rents set by HUD, right? So that's an example of a subsidy to encourage additional housing units at market rates.
Right.
There's
Much like we saw today.
Yeah. The reason that developers take money to go further into the more deeply subsidized space is because it costs more to build than it's worth on day one. So, I'm not proposing that because I have a sense that the council wants to rebalance it. But that might mean that gap exists. So all of those are discussions for further on down the road as we figure out what's the sources and uses table for this project look like. It could be, for instance, that, we could drive it down lower, but we don't want to encumber the property with a deed restriction for lower rents, and so we're going to take a $100,000 hit today and amortize that over 10 years, right?
Okay. All right. For now.
Any other questions on the LLC? Young man, do you have any questions out in the audience?
I think it's best if I answer any questions people have versus me. I didn't necessarily hear every word over here, so I don't want to misspeak, honestly, straightforwardly. If you have questions.
All right, no questions, let's move forward. Entertain a motion to authorize the LLC. Oh, we already did?
Then we just had our discussion.
That's right, we did. Thank you for that reminder, Trudy. All those in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Actually, we'll move on to the short-term debt renewal for 54, 56, and 58 North Main Street. So this is, you had a memo in your packet from Sarah. And short-term note was renewed last April, requesting authorization to renew for another year. And the bank has quoted 2.5% on the 12-month extension, costing a total of $10,750 in interest. I'm assuming that's for the year. And the redevelopment fund has been holding this note and paying the interest. Fairly straightforward. Any comments on that, Dom?
Nope.
James, thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for
Thanks,
everything.
Jim.
Thank you for
Thank
all
you
coming
very
here.
much.
Good ear, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, entertain a motion to renew the debt.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Marie. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Chad. Any comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor of the renewal, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. The short debt is will be renewed. As we talked about earlier, we will be tabling item number 8. We will now move to council reports. Well, we'll go back to 8 under the one item A is what's being tabled. For me, I had a couple of comments. Chip, I don't know if it's you, but I've had 2 comments, 2 concerns about Stebbins Street and the width of it and having parking on both sides, especially since we're sending tractor trailers up that road, up Stebbins.
Yeah.
I did have a quick conversation with Mr. Hawkins, and I've seen it myself, it's very narrow. So the 2 comments that I had from people who are in business that deal with tractor trailers have both said that it's very, very difficult to not only maneuver the tractor trailer, but cars that might encounter it. So I have been asked to look at that street and see if it makes sense to go to parking on one side of Stebbins based on traffic. So,
But I think that's definitely something we can consider, especially if the council is open to the idea, for sure.
anyone have any comments relative to that? Or I would ask that you all take a look at it next time you're on Stebbins Street, and we can follow up. We can follow up at the next meeting.
Yeah.
And I'd ask you to take a look at it as well and see what your thoughts are.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about, yeah.
Have you heard yourself of?
I haven't, I might have heard complaints, but it's, you can see how narrow it is,
Yep.
especially if you approach a truck.
And why are tractor trailers going down that road?
Intersection.
To avoid Lake Street.
It has one of the best.
We don't want to go on Lake Street, or on Main Street, okay.
It has one of the best turning radiuses onto Main,
Okay.
so it's more,
Oh.
it's the most, one of the more forgiving accesses to Main
Okay.
Street for trucks.
And coming off St. Catherine onto Stebbins.
Okay.
Yeah, because you've got the 3 lanes coming off of Lake Street, kind of block it up.
South side, is that what they want to eliminate?
I don't have a preference.
Neither do I. I don't think anyone does, it's just very narrow. I
Yeah.
mean, I can live with it.
I would look at closing the south side because I think most traffic's coming down, and you normally put on-street parking on the downhill side of a street.
How many parking spaces would that eliminate? I'm just thinking of the.
4, 5.
Oh, so it's not significant.
Yeah, but that's one of the things we would look at.
Okay, because I know BFA is hard to find parking spaces. For the kids that drive.
But those are all timed.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but they're still used extensively by students.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, any ticket. Yeah,
Not as much as we should.
yeah,
I would say we have offered the parking garage to students.
I know. It's too far to walk.
Actually, I would argue it's closer than some of the places they do already.
Oh, I
Yeah,
agree.
they park up Bishop Street.
Bishop and High Street.
Yeah.
So that was one. I had Chip. Next one is Green Up Day. For you newer council people, Green Up Day is May 4th. We try to get each one of you to man a station, 8:30 in the morning, hand out bags probably till about 9:30. So in your ward, so the pickups are Senior Center, Taylor Park, possibly Food City, Little League, Holton Park, and Barlow Street. So we hit the entire community. You would probably be Taylor Park, that's what Mike had done in the past. We do hand out coupons for creamies or ice cream at Duke's Creamies as an incentive. So we'll have those, but we'll all have boxes for all of you if you're willing. Drop them off at your homes, and like I said, it's a quick hour and 15 minutes. May 4th. Lastly for me, the eclipse. Chip, thank you for all your work. And Arlie.
Yeah, it's mostly Arlie Young who pulled off the event. She had one chance in a lifetime to do it, and it went off without a hitch. So it's really all Arlie's show.
I would tend to agree with that. I would also but like to thank you, Chip. I mean, the amount of hours that you put in, the number of evenings you put, I mean, I recognize it and I appreciate all the time and effort you put. I tell people all the time we have a great team in the city, a great team in the City Hall. Nicole, Sarah, Arlie, Jill, Kristen, and accounting as well. So I think we have a great team, and Marty and his team. So thank you for all the hours you put in, and the eclipse went off to Chip's point without a hitch. I think there's some things that we could have done to improve the community presentation, but that's for another discussion.
Yeah, and you promised we'd be doing it again next year.
Yes,
Mr. Mayor,
we're working on
if I remember correctly.
we're working on an annual eclipse event, truly, if you want to.
We should reenact it with little
Yeah.
costumes.
I think for me, that's about all I have at this stage. And we'll go around the table. Marie, we'll start with you.
We've been fairly quiet down my way. Interesting to watch the Lake Street building going up. They're rapidly making progress on that. Looks like they're encasing the windows now, so I'm assuming that's probably gonna be one of the next steps. I do see a lot of greenbelt parking that seems to be going on and destroying the green belts. It's gonna be an awful mess, but you know, with spring coming on, I'm assuming that those will be all kind of tidied up, but I just would like to see that get under control a little better.
Are you sharing that with Marty and Matt?
Well, I haven't really yet, because it's not, you know, this time of the year is a time that they'll be looking at that, so yes, I will pass that on. But I've got some down the other end of my street that are really bad. Mine is getting bad. There was the tree next door that got cut, and the driver of the big boom truck apologized. He said, "I have to drive on your front lawn." I said, "Well, do what you have to do, you know." And I had told Marty that would need filling in. But right now, there's a roof going on across the street from us, and so it's blocking the homeowner's driveway, so they've been parking, but they park on the grass. So you still have to go around them, you know, so it doesn't really accomplish a whole lot. But it's a busy street, and when you start, you know, getting all that traffic going through, it makes it hard to get around. But yeah, I'd like to see the green belts
Maintained.
yeah, tended to. But that's really about all I have right now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to dovetail on your ward. Chip, do we know what's going on with the two houses on Pearl that had trees go through them? Will they?
Well, over my right shoulder.
Oh, there's I forgot about that, yes. And Alan, if you want to speak as a public person.
As a public person, we've got work moving. We've got a demolition team, or demo team going in this Friday to start getting the roof off and getting that replaced and getting all the remodeling work started.
Oh, so you're going to repair it then?
Yep, yep.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
New roof, new siding, kind of basically all new interior, so.
Wonderful.
Yeah, yep.
I believe the other apartment building is tending more toward a complete demo. And obviously that trailer, with the unfortunate incident, I'm sure is probably gone by now. but
Well, I think
I'm
it's
sure
gone the next
also
day, I
total
think.
loss. Yeah.
Okay, Alan, thanks for that input. I couldn't see you behind the camera, I forgot. Noel, what do you have?
Not too much, just the Newton Street with the bumps and all this stuff. That's my concern.
Do we know what the paving schedule is?
Let's ask Marty that when he comes back. He and I talked about Newton Street.
Yeah, because I mean, you gotta put it like that.
The challenge is coordinating what might make sense in year one with the redevelopment that's about to happen at Fonda.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to, Chad, you did a good job. I told you last night when I
Yeah.
came in, I thought it was gonna be a meeting, and it wasn't, so I came anyhow. So, but it was excellent. And I got comments at the railroad station this morning about the city, how nice it is and everything else.
How many people took the train up?
I think it was like 30 went out this morning.
Smart.
Yeah, right.
Chad?
So about the clips yesterday, it was, the traffic situation was so much smoother than I think anybody thought it was going to be. Definitely wasn't crazy. People seem to handle it well, especially given how many extra people are in town. I guess the only other thing is Maddie and Marty worked with a house that was in my ward. They kind of had a trash issue. That's got handled pretty quick, so those two fellows were pretty efficient on getting what needed to be done.
How many PHSO?
Yeah.
Eric?
Not a lot up my end from what's already been worked on. Marty has plans to fix a couple issues that were brought up, including Barlow Street had a sidewalk issue with people walking the main road instead of going down into the dip sidewalk because of the driveway that's there. Marty's looking into the storm drain there to see if we can at least get it cleared until a bigger project can be done there. The intersection at Barlow and Upper Weldon is having pooling issues again, and that they said they're going to be looking into this spring. So I brought up a speeding concern in Upper Weldon, and PD's looking into that, which is great. I think this rhetoric I keep getting is the Upper Weldon paving. I know Marty said a couple weeks ago that that doesn't look like it's in the immediate future according to the state, but getting some patchwork considered on a couple spots on that road. It's pretty deep. I know it's a counter here because the road is really bumpy, but also people have a speeding issue, so I don't know why one's not fixing the other, but yeah, I think those are the major things. I'm in the early phases of planning with a couple neighbors a block party for our ward, to bring back something Kate used to do. So
Where will you hold that?
I've already had Lee's volunteered some of the green space up behind Barlow Street School. And he's also offered some of the rec equipment for yard games and stuff. So it's mainly just trying to find food and then a couple of musicians to play some music and have a block party. So y'all are invited.
I had a meeting at the dog park yesterday, even though it's not in the city or in my ward. But I went and just toured it with one of the regulars there, and we had a nice conversation about things that the folks that are regulars there have done to improve the dog park. And the fence is a big issue. The fence was damaged by a car. Was there an insurance claim? Because they were told there was, but I'm not. Anyway, the fence is, it's kind of like held together with, she made a cute little saying with, you know, string and spit or something. So the dog park, that was brought up to me that was a concern with the fencing there, and I know that that's a tricky situation because there's no revenue coming in to pay for the stuff at the dog park, but it is still a pretty huge draw for people in our general area. And the other thing I was curious about, there's a vehicle charging station at Hardak. I didn't know that. And that is generating funds for us, or that would generate funds, or not? Maybe that could pay for the new fence at the dog park?
You know when that next eclipse is coming?
Um,
That's how much money you'll make.
yeah. So those aren't free though, or they shouldn't be, correct?
Oh, they're free in the
They're
garage.
pretty free. Nobody's making money on those things.
So if I get an electric vehicle, I can charge it for free?
Depending on where, depending on where you park it, right? So,
Oh,
um,
I guess I wasn't.
Well, the parking lot's paying the daily rate. We get 2 hours free in there, right?
yeah.
Huh,
Not electric cars, so.
that's interesting, okay, well, I learned something.
Yeah, no, I've questioned that as well. I'd be curious to see how much it costs to charge for 2 hours, what the impact on the electric bill is.
I mean, eventually it's gonna flip or it's gonna catch up, but right now, it's like when ATMs were free, right? You know,
Yeah.
now most of them are free, particularly those in public facilities
Huh.
that are mandated to be installed as a permit condition. So,
All right.
You get electric.
Quick question on the dog park. Part of
You
the
get electric car.
southwest corner was removed, the fence was removed?
That was the second entrance.
Right.
That was removed, and they did not like that.
They didn't like that it was removed, or that?
Yeah,
was
because a
the
lot of
second
people would go in that way also.
Why was that removed?
it was removed as part of a repair.
It was often broken.
We're missing the issue here, though. Like, the issue is that the dog park constituency needs a way to plug in to the rest of the city of St. Albans so that they can advocate for their interests. And frankly, that ought to be on the goals list, right? And
Well, the people that donated the land, I asked about that because it's Mark's Bark Park or whatever. They're not in the area anymore.
they donated the money to put the
Right,
fence in.
the
And the-
land was donated by the Coffees,
Okay,
but not by
but the
Mark.
fence was from them, okay.
And it came, Mark's Bark Park, the dog park came with the Hardak facility.
Okay.
It was already there, and the fence was already having problems because it was,
Well, I think it was installed by volunteers, so, you know, Melissa and I had a good conversation about our grant opportunities, our fundraising opportunities, and, you know, what can we do and what can they do? You know, can we utilize VFA's construction folks? She said that, you know, she's been in good contact with you and she's appreciated that. But I do agree that that's kind of like they don't have really a place to go because they're not technically in the city and they're not in the port. They're just kind of in no man's land, but it's part of Hardak and people come to the dog park. It's a huge draw.
the place for them to plug in is the Parks and Rec Commission. You know, just like the people who are interested in the pool plug in through the Parks and Rec Commission.
Okay.
Where the water gets murky is the interaction between the city boards and the Hardak board. And we're in the process of morphing the city rec board into an oversight body for what goes on up there. And then that would be the place for them to advocate. And then the Hardak board, Hardak and Park board could come in our budget process and say.
Well, maybe you and I could talk a little bit about, like, I asked her to do some homework and come up with some thoughts and ideas, and then maybe when she gets those to me, I can have a conversation with you.
I think the other tricky part is residents versus non-residents.
Yeah.
I mean, everything else we do relative to recreation, we're charging a resident, non-resident fee. And I get we don't charge there, but at the same time, I don't want to be, I don't think our rec board should be at the wants and desires of whoever brings a dog to the dog park.
I don't think any dog parks charge.
I mean, all that's true, you know, but then there's like the art of the possible, right, you know, and.
But when they do come here, then they also shop in our stores and go to the
I want to
restaurants.
see their receipts, have
Okay.
the receipts in.
With their dogs?
Yeah.
The pool, people pay an entrance fee.
Right,
Right? Now,
and more if you're not a city resident,
you
right?
know, we could try to set something up.
No, I don't think that'd be, I
know how
say
other
that, but
towns-
I know it's not feasible probably to have someone sit there and
Other
charge.
towns subsidize it, like if you go to South, you know, if you go to Karen's and see their park on the right, you know, they don't stop and say, hey.
No, I agree with you totally. I'm just saying that
Yeah.
it'd be nice if the people who used it stepped up and you say they've made contributions.
They have, like, they have done a lot of work, and they've spent a lot of their own money, and they've done some fundraisers, they got $1,000 from the Rotary. But a gentleman I talked to there was from Connecticut, and they have a dog park, and there's like a committee, committee that organizes it and like, kind of manages it, but it's not it's not the city that bring them, so.
So maybe that oversight could have a sub-organization of people that want to serve the park. They could do fundraising, they could do events, they could do ways to fix it.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I'll be in touch. That's it.
All right, Mr. Hawkins?
One for my ward, one for general. Traveling south on Main Street by the Upper Newton Street light, Lower Newton Street, Upper Newton Street light. There still is not a sign there that either says you can go up Upper Newton Street or you can't go up Upper Newton Street. And I see cars continuing to try and negotiate that, causing a problem. So either we let them up there or we don't let them up there. If we can let them up there, let's get a sign to say you can go up there with the other two signs, or let's say have a arrow with a slash through it saying you can't go up there. So just take a look at it, see what you think. I think it's still problematic there. The other thing is, how many police cars do we have marked?
I forget.
Yes.
10?
More than that.
Okay. Are those in use all day long?
No.
Yeah, I'm not sure we have more than 10 marked. I think it's more like 8 to 10.
Okay. I'm just wondering if it would be beneficial to the community if we could strategically park unmanned, marked police cars in various locations in the city at certain times of the day.
Yes.
We had one in front of Ace Hardware for a long time.
I mean, like maybe down on Lower Kingman or down on Kingman Street, or maybe, maybe somewhere up in one of the neighborhoods that are having a problem with people running the light or speeding, just to have one parked there. I think that does as good a job as the sign that has, you're speeding and all of a sudden the blue light starts, that kind of scares you into slowing down. But I think that's good for cars that speed, but I think the police cars are good for other things, like, vandalism, roughhousing.
Yeah.
I made that comment to Dom in the past, that if you see a car there, you don't know where the officer is. He could be in that house, he could be in this house, he could be
In the car.
He could be in the car.
Yeah. So,
We lost out on Sean, on Lord,
Oh, yeah.
retired from
The
South
D-Mark.
Road.
oh, yeah, he used to be right by the Fonda.
Yeah.
That was good.
And it worked, right? It worked
Yeah,
for me.
oh, yeah, me too.
Come around that corner with police car.
Yeah.
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 So, I mean, just, if we just, the counselors are, gave you a few problem areas in their neighborhoods. And maybe we could do something. I don't know what most availability is, or if he even thinks that's a good idea, but maybe you should take a look at it. And one more, I just thought of it. Marie and I were talking at a meeting that we were here a while back, and we were discussing the conditions of certain buildings in our wards. And I'm wondering if it would be prudent, or if it'd be worth our while. I walk around my ward every once in a while. I try to, take a walk and walk every street in the ward. I haven't done it on Lower Newton Street since it became, that part of Main Street, Lower Newton, since it became part of my ward. But just walk and take note of buildings that we think we should be taking a look at.
you know, either by having some type of grant program, or maybe someone contacting the landlord saying, you know, so what's up here, but, you know, or maybe it's a problem, residents, that maybe we should just keep track of that. I mean, I think we have a responsibility to the constituents in our wards to prevent the degradation of our wards by unsightliness and unruliness.
Yeah.
Because
So,
there's
I
no
know.
doors to
I think that's a good idea, Tim.
I like it. I just gotta
Anything else,
remember
Ms.
what it
Hawkins?
is.
Is it? You don't know the boundaries of it.
Well, I'm learning.
Let's move on to item number 10, which is consider approval of the warrant from 3/31/24.
Motion to accept warrant 331/24.
Motion seconded by Eric. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Number 11.
Motion to approve minutes, there's 3/11/24.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Tim, seconded by Marie. Any comments, amendments, questions on minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Is there any other business come before the council? Dom, you're good?
I'm good.
Chip, you're good?
We're good.
Good? All right. Then we'll move on to adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Judy.
I'll second that.
When you make that a motion, could you acknowledge the time, please?
I'll make a motion to adjourn well before
Thank you.
proposed time. Nice work.
1954.
So we have a motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And we are adjourned at 7:52. Thank you all.